didn't realize I was being followed until I was already a mile from the store. Let me back up. This was a regular Sunday evening grocery run to my local Walmart in South Georgia. Nothing special about it. I got there around 8:30, grabbed what I needed, checked out, headed for the exit. I'm 21, pretty physically fit. Not someone who generally worries about that kind of thing. But as I was walking out through the front doors, I noticed an older man near the entrance staring at me. Not a quick glance, a full stare. The kind where you can tell someone has been watching you for longer than you realized before you looked up. I brushed it off. Plenty of people stare at things in Walmart. It means nothing. I went to my car and started loading groceries into the trunk. We're talking maybe 5 or 6 bags, nothing that takes long. A minute at most. And that's when I felt it. That specific feeling on the back of your neck when you know someone is looking at you. Not a glance. Sustained attention. I turned around, and the same man was standing in the parking lot maybe 30 feet away, looking directly at me. He hadn't gone to a car. He hadn't kept walking. He was just standing there in the middle of the lot watching me load my groceries. I picked up the pace, got the bags in, got in the car, locked the doors, pulled out. As I was driving toward the exit, I checked my mirror. He was still standing there watching me leave. I told myself I was overthinking it. Paranoid. The guy was probably just spaced out and I happened to be in his line of sight. By the time I got a mile down the road, I had almost convinced myself of that. And then a black pickup truck came up fast behind me and settled right on my bumper. I mean, right on it. Close enough that I could barely see his headlights in my mirror. The road was empty, 2 lanes, nothing coming the other way, plenty of room to pass. I slowed down a little and drifted toward the shoulder to give him room to go around me. He didn't pass. He just matched my speed and stayed right there. I kept driving. Maybe 30 seconds went by. I slowed down more, almost to a crawl, making it completely obvious I was letting him by. Still nothing. Just that truck sitting on my bumper in the dark. That's when I got a clear look in my mirror, and I recognized him. Same man from the Walmart parking lot. Same face that had been staring at me 30 feet away while I loaded my groceries. He had followed me out of that parking lot and had been behind me this whole time. I hit the brakes, hard. He had to swerve to avoid rear-ending me and swung out into the other lane to pass. But as he went by, he brake-checked me, slammed his brakes right in front of my car, trying to force me to stop. I had to swerve myself to avoid hitting him. We were both all over the road at this point. He kept doing it, slowing down, brake-checking, trying to get me to stop my car on the side of an empty road in the dark. This went on for about 10 minutes, back and forth. Him slowing, me swerving, him trying to cut me off. I was gripping the wheel hard enough that my hands hurt. Finally, I found a gap and floored it, got around him, and drove as fast as I could put distance between us. I got home, got inside, tried to calm down. Told myself it was road rage, some random aggressive driver who happened to also be at Walmart. Nothing connected, nothing personal. Then my Ring camera went off. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the live feed. The man was standing on my front porch. I called the police immediately. They came out, checked the property, spoke with me. By the time they got there, he was gone. They couldn't do much. No crime had technically been committed, no law broken that they could prove. They took a report and left. I still don't know who he was. I don't know how he knew where I lived, whether he followed me all the way home or already knew somehow. I don't know what he wanted or what would have happened if I'd pulled over on that empty road when he was trying to stop me. What I do know is that I never noticed him inside the store. He could have been watching me the entire time I was shopping, following me through the aisles, waiting, timing it so he was near the entrance when I left. I think about that every time I go back to that Walmart now, which honestly isn't very often anymore. I was working a night shift stocking shelves at my Walmart when a man started following me through the store. By the time I understood what was happening, he was already waiting for me in the parking lot. I want to be clear about something first. Working overnight at Walmart, you see a lot of strange people and strange behavior. You get used to it pretty fast. Someone acting a little odd in an aisle at midnight is not unusual. So when I first noticed this guy, I didn't immediately think anything of it. I was in the chip aisle stocking product when he came in. Older guy, maybe 50s. He walked to the end of the aisle, looked at a few bags like he was reading them, then left. Fine, normal. People browse. Then a minute or two later, he came back. This time he came further into the aisle, closer to where I was working, and did the same thing, pretending to look at chips while I could see him in my peripheral vision turning his head toward me every few seconds. Not quickly, slowly, like he was making sure I was still there and hadn't moved. I kept my head down and kept working, but every muscle in my body was paying attention. There's a specific feeling you get when someone is watching you, not glancing, actually watching, and I had it full force right then. After a minute, he left the aisle again. I got on the walkie and quietly let my manager know there was a customer making me uncomfortable, gave a description, asked them to keep an eye out. Then I got called up front to cover someone's break near the door, which honestly I was relieved about. Being up front with more people and more light felt better. Then I saw him at the self-checkout. He wasn't checking out. He wasn't looking at the machine or any product. He was standing at the self-checkout area with his body pointed directly at me, staring. Full-on, open stare from maybe 20 feet away. Not pretending anymore, just watching me stand at my position near the door. I got back on the walkie and told my manager he was still in the store and now he was staring at me from the front. The manager came up and positioned himself nearby, and the man left the store, walked out the front doors, and disappeared into the parking lot. I felt the relief immediately. He was gone. It was over. My manager stayed near the front for a while just in case, but there was no sign of him. I was next up for break, so a few minutes later I went outside and sat on the curb to smoke. It was late, maybe midnight or just after, and the parking lot was pretty quiet. My friend who also worked there came out with me. We sat on the curb near the entrance just talking and decompressing the way you do after a long shift. I had mostly put the whole thing out of my mind by that point. A weird customer had made me uncomfortable and management had handled it and he was gone. That's how it's supposed to work. Then I heard a car moving slowly through the lot. A car pulled into the lot and drove slowly toward where we were sitting and stopped right next to us, right there at the curb. The window was down. It was him. He just sat there in his car with the window down, engine running, looking at me from the driver's seat, not saying anything, just parked there next to two women sitting on a curb at midnight, watching. My friend stood up and put herself between me and the car. I got straight on the walkie. My manager came outside within a minute and walked directly up to the car and told the man he needed to leave the property or the police were being called. The man looked at my manager for a moment. Then he drove away without a word. We never found out who he was. He'd been in the store long enough to buy nothing, follow me through at least 2 departments, watch me from the front end, leave when he saw management, and then come back and sit in his car next to me the moment I stepped outside. He knew when I went on break. He had timed it. He sat in that parking lot and waited for me to come outside and then pulled up right next to me. I think about the version of that night where my friend wasn't outside with me, where I was sitting on that curb alone when his car pulled up. I'm grateful that's not the version that happened. A woman got into the back of my car at a Walmart parking lot at 11 o'clock at night and refused to get out. And that was before I realized someone was already waiting in the van. Let me set the scene. I was 19, sitting in my car in the middle of the Walmart lot with my buddy Jay. We weren't shopping. We were just parked there, hanging out the way you do at 19, music on, talking. The lot was pretty full, plenty of cars around us, normal amount of people coming and going. It was a regular summer night, and we had no reason to think anything was off. That's when I noticed a woman walking toward us, mid-40s, moving slowly, looking at the cars as she walked between them. I figured she was heading to her own vehicle somewhere nearby, but she wasn't. She stopped right at Jay's window and bent down and tapped on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. "Please help me," she said. Her voice was shaky. "I need your help." I cracked my window. Jay leaned toward her. She said her car had broken down and pointed across the lot, toward the far side of the building, around the corner, where the light got thin and the shadows from the building covered most of the ground. I looked where she was pointing, and I could make out a vehicle over there. White, windowless. A van parked at the very edge of the lot away from the other cars. I told her we'd follow her over in my car. She could walk and we'd drive behind her and see what was going on. That seemed reasonable. That seemed safe. She moved faster than I expected. Before I could do anything, she reached back and grabbed my rear door handle and pulled it open and climbed into my back seat, just like that, sitting in my car. I turned around and looked at her and said, "Can you get out of the car?" Jay said it too, firmer than me. "Yeah, get out of the car." She didn't move. She said there were guys over there creeping her out and she needed us to drive her to the van. She wasn't walking. She needed us to drive her there right now. Her voice had shifted. It was urgent in a way that didn't feel right. Too desperate, too insistent, like someone following a script. I had a breaker bar tucked beside my seat. My hand found it. I told her one more time to get out of the car. She got louder, said we had promised to help her, said she wasn't leaving, said we needed to drive her to the van right now. She kept saying van, drive me to the van, drive to the van, and then she said our van, not my van, our van. She caught it immediately and kept talking like it hadn't happened, but I had heard it. Jay had heard it. I looked at him and he looked at me, and neither of us said anything because there was someone in our back seat and we needed to think clearly for the next 30 seconds. I put the car in reverse. She leaned forward. "That's not the direction of the van. You need to go." I kept reversing. I drove backward across the lot and pulled up directly in front of the main entrance of the store. Bright lights, automatic doors opening and closing, people walking in and out, cameras everywhere. She went quiet for a second. Then, "This isn't where I told you to go. Drive to the van." She'd almost said it again. I threw the car in park, grabbed the breaker bar, got out of the car and walked around to the rear door and yanked it open and told her to get out. Now. She looked at me, looked at the entrance, looked at the people around us, and she ran. Didn't walk. Ran. Across the lot toward the dark side of the building, toward that white van sitting in the shadows. The side door of the van opened before she reached it. Not after she got there. Not when she knocked. Before. She was still 20 feet away, running across that dark corner of the lot when the door slid open from the inside. Someone had been watching her run back, watching her leave my car, watching the whole thing play out from inside that van the entire time she was in my back seat. She jumped in without breaking stride, and that van pulled out immediately. No pause, no hesitation. They were ready. They had been ready the whole time. Jay and I sat there in the parking lot in front of the Walmart entrance without saying anything for a solid minute. I've thought about it a lot since then, about what the plan was. She needed us to drive to the van, not walk, drive. She needed to be in the car when we got there. Whatever was waiting at that van, she needed us delivered to it from inside the vehicle. And she had almost gotten away with it. If I hadn't noticed the slip, if I had driven toward that dark corner of the lot instead of the entrance, if I hadn't had that breaker bar, I don't know what was in that van. I don't know what they had planned or how many people were involved or whether they had done this before at that Walmart or other ones. I just know that the door opened before she got there. Somebody was waiting, and they were ready. If these stories got to you, let me know in the comments. And if something has ever happened to you at a Walmart or in a parking lot late at night, something that didn't feel right, share it below.